You know, social media is pretty weird. From the memification of gambling and driving under the influence to things that are more serious like racism and the spread of hate messaging and propaganda. It's a place that has become corrupted. It is our place of joy and also our place of pain. And it's something that we can't really escape. It's a part of our life now. It's an invisible fourth place that we find ourselves in. I think it's something we should talk more about. Oh, Snoop Jesus, please get me the Nintendo Switch 2 for Christmas. Everyone knows Nintendo's prices are outrageous. Oh yeah, Snoop Jesus brings to light a bigger problem that I'd like to talk about. The first issue with modern social media, which is the memification of dangerous topics. Many of you may have that one friend that sends you TikToks and Reels about drinking and driving, or about gambling, or taking steroids, which is all in good fun, and many of us are able to handle that. The issue arises when we start to consider the next generation, and when the casinos themselves start making these memes, or even in our own case, that we are getting desensitized in some minor way to these issues. It really starts to make it all a lot less funny. Then we have to address the real elephant in the room. And no, it's not Snoop Jesus. It's the radicalization of many Americans and people throughout the world through the use of these memes. Before we get into the use of memes and radicalization today, let's talk a little bit about the use in the past and how this came to be. One of the best ways to talk about this is by discussing Gamergate, which was one of the first large-scale uses of memes and radicalization. Now, to understand Gamergate, it's best to understand who Anita Sarkeesian is. Besides having a badass name, Anita Sarkeesian was a games journalist who discussed sexist tropes in video games. Now, this wasn't specifically targeting gaming or anyone in particular. It was mainly about certain tropes that were getting overused and that had sexist connotations that some developers may not even realize were like this. Now, what Gamergate was a harassment campaign that specifically targeted Anita Sarkeesian and many other women in gaming journalism. And to understand why so many gamers participated in this, it's best to first talk about the identity bubble that gamers held. So, many gamers were worried that when these videos were releasing, that their identity as a gamer would be threatened. The reason this is because if their favorite medium, their favorite pastime of video games is now being called sexist, it makes them feel that they, who enjoy this medium, might also be, in a way, sexist. Of course, this is a much more nuanced topic, and these gamers enjoying these video games do not necessarily have any culpability here, but it was still felt like an attack. And when Anita Sarkeesian first uploaded those videos, it felt like they were dropping a feminist nuke on their identity, which was a big deal. Now, while this campaign was going on, one important person noticed that, which is Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, besides being a member of Trump's cabinet in 2016, was one of the lead people in Cambridge Analytica. He saw the potential of radicalizing many individuals on a movement in Gamergate, and particularly through the use of memes and radicalization. He took this into Cambridge Analytica, where they then used targeted advertising and political messaging to radicalize many people into a couple things, including the 2016 election, Brexit, and many more that we don't have time to get into here. So, let's get into the memes of Gamergate. Memes were a big factor in motivating people to participate in this. When they were trolling or arguing about Gamergate, they felt like they were just participating in some online joke. So, in this little image, we have a character who's wearing a pink and white, and she's the anti-Gamergate character, and then another who is green and purple, which ended up being adopted as Gamergate's colors and Gamergate's mascot. Now, the interesting thing about this is that this is a representation of this character from Dragon Ball, a pretty cool character who, on his own, is completely innocent, but on 4chan, where this this harassment campaign originated, there was a large meme called the Daily Dose. And without getting into details, this character was participating in sexual assault, and essentially the slogan of Gamergate was based around a sexual assault meme. And this kind of subtle messaging would get to the people who participated in Gamergate and desensitize them and radicalize them into these ideas, right? Now, if we pivot a little bit to talking about today, with just a quick amount of time on Instagram or some other social media website, it doesn't take long before you find racist or otherwise radical memes and ideas. Maybe this is because your friends are watching it, or maybe it's because of the algorithm and the data that Zuckerberg and these CEOs have control of on these websites. But they're usually sometimes subtle, as in not quite overtly racist, and other times completely so. It's about slowly numbing people to it and radicalizing them in that way. Alright, before I get to the oligarchs behind me, let's talk a little bit about how the political environment is different today than it was back in 2014. In 2014, when Gamergate was at its peak, we were seeing the early stages and the beginnings of the use of memes and targeted data advertising and radicalization. Today, we're seeing almost the after effects, although it is still going on. I think this is important mainly because this isn't an issue with a group that has gotten riled up and are angry about something that they care about. This is something that on an individual level is psychologically different than in 2014. Many of these individuals have now been seeing these kind of targeted advertising and memes for many, many years. And its use in radicalizing people to the alt-right has only become more and more prevalent. Now, let's get to the oligarchs behind me. So, to start, let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, he owns the data. He is the CEO of Meta apps such as Facebook and Instagram, which hold a lot of the data on you that can be used to psychologically profile and then target you with these ads and memes. The issue with that is that it has been known that this data has been leaked, either intentionally or on accident. Then we get to Donald Trump, who I think is the face of this issue because he benefited the most. He became president twice during this radicalization campaign and through the use of things like Cambridge Analytica and memes to radicalize individuals. And then there's Elon Musk, who owns the memes. He is one of the biggest players with these memes. He likes to post them, send them, he likes to own the libs and participate in it, and he continued to do this to the point where his own generative AI bot on his own website that he purchased now claims he is the biggest spreader of misinformation on the internet. Now, the thing with these three oligarchs is that I'm not even entirely sure that they understand what is happening or understand that they're such big players in it. I think it's something that they all benefit from and that they all subconsciously support and further the problem with. Alright, so I think the next question to ask when discussing this issue is what can we do on an individual level? I think on an individual level, change is not going to be amazing because this is something that legislatively needs to be addressed. The use of our data is frankly disgusting that we aren't talking more about it and more aware of it. People like Elon Musk now have access to all of the Twitter data and all of your social security numbers through the use of Doge, which I think is something that needs to be addressed more publicly. But on an individual level, what you can do is just be aware of it. That's the first step always. When your friends send you a gambling meme, make sure that that's not making you more numb to the idea of spending your money at the casino. If you want to, go for it. If not, just make sure the video itself isn't what's affecting you and numbing you. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. I'd like to continue making these videos, and I think I'll get better with every single one. I know this one is still a little bit all over the place. I like the idea of using different positions like the whiteboard and the iPad at certain points. I think it kind of is just my ADD personality, and I'd like to show that and embrace it in my style. And yeah, if you have any parts that you liked or didn't really care for, please, any amount of advice in the comments or criticism is welcome. But don't dislike, that's rude. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye bye.